city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing.
Welcome to
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I'm here with Evan Liu and Ezra Parter to talk Colorado Avalanche hockey on the eve of the season opener. I guess the eve of the season opener against the Los Angeles Kings to start the 2023-24 NHL regular season for this Colorado Avalanche team. We actually have some news today, Avs related, kind of some stuff that I guess we'll find out where the two of you land on which side of the fence. I already know where I sit just in terms of the Annunen situation and some of the other news. But while I have everyone's attention, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and turn your alerts on so you know every single time that the Mile High Hockey Lab is live. And be sure to head on over to our new Spotify channel. There's a new catalog. Still having issues with our former RSS feed. So if you're listening over there, head on over to our new feed, and we'll have all of the episodes we've done so far this year and into the future on that feed. So, Evan, Ezra, what do you guys think of the news today? Ezra, I'll send it your way. Annunen is reassigned to the Eagles, and the Avalanche do in fact head to the waiver wire and claim a goaltender in Prosvetov, previously of the Arizona Coyotes. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not that surprised that they claimed a goalie and sent Annunen down. I just think that the organization's mindset about goalie development is get them starts, get them in front of pucks, don't have them sit on the bench. Yeah. And I don't hate that. I think Annunen could have done the backup job just as well as Prosvetov will do. What's really odd to me, though, is that Prosvetov is another prospect goalie. He's not an established guy. So it's a swing. If he turns out to be great, that's awesome. I mean, he does have – I wrote this in the news piece about him coming over on the website, but he does have kind of the tools that goaltending coach UC Parkala looks for. So he was a target I thought they might look into. I published a piece ahead of these cuts saying that he might be one of the goalies that they look at over on puckyeti.com. So, I thought it might happen, but I didn't think he was the right target. I thought a veteran would have made more sense.
Yeah, and I read your article today, your newser, as we call it, in relation to this topic. And I did notice that you mentioned that his NHL track record is definitely not something that pops off the sheet in a positive way. Do you think that has anything to, I guess, is there any way you give him the benefit of the doubt, or is that just a spade looking like a spade to you?
He is a goalie in the mold of Jonas Johansson. He's big. Mm-hmm. He's got good feet. He doesn't have it all together yet. And He was playing in front of a bad team, which is true, or behind a bad team, I should say, which was true for Jonas Johansson. And Jonas Johansson put in some good starts for Colorado. He also didn't ultimately pan out. So as a comparable, that's not necessarily encouraging, but it's also, we can see that this is something that they like to try to do, is take these bigger goalies who are on bad teams and see if maybe we can coach them up into something that'll work out. And it technically, Grubauer and Kemper and Georgiev all had much better track records, but they're also in the same vein too, where those are some bigger guys who are on teams that weren't giving them opportunity, and they came and got opportunity and thrived. So, we'll see. I wouldn't put a lot of stock into Prosvetov as a long-term option in Colorado. I think he's a stopgap for now, and he'll probably go back on waivers when Frankie is available. But if he ends up sticking with the organization, cool.
Right. Well, you mentioned Frankie, and it was officially determined and it disclosed that he's on the IR to start the season. And this waiver acquisition pretty much just puts it pretty clearly, the writing is on the wall, that the situation is a little bit worse than we may have anticipated for Frankie. Evan, I noticed that Megan Angley of DNVR, she shared a video of Ivan Prosvetov doing cartwheels. Are you doing cartwheels in terms of this acquisition, or how do you feel about how this settled for Adrian after a pretty solid camp?
That's a really good lead in. I liked that. That was little golf clap for that.
Hey, we're practicing over here.
This is what preseason's for, right?
That's right. We
Glad
got
to see it.
got
Glad
it
to
all
see it's
out.
gotten there. But to actually answer the question, I'll admit I'm actually a little disappointed. I would have liked to see Annunen get a shot, right?
Mhm.
I think pretty much up until the news came out at noon today, most everybody was pretty confident that it was going to be Annunen's spot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's where I was at. That's where I think most everybody else was at. And content wise, it's
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
that's
definitely where I was at 11 a.m. writing an article about how Annunen deserves a real shot at being a real backup. But here we are.
Here
That's
we are.
I'm glad I didn't hit publish. You know what I
I
mean?
know,
Because that would
right?
have been awkward.
No, but I think though, like I do think he will at least get some chances before Frankie comes back. Fingers crossed with that.
Mhm.
I think he will get some chances for sure. I don't think it will just be Georgiev and Presvitov. That's going to be a mouthful
Right.
to say and type. But I think it should be said that this is Georgiev's net. He is going
For
to
sure.
play the majority of games. It's going to be like last season,
Mhm.
where it is mostly him on a nightly basis. I would think that only a backup will come in on back-to-back nights. Maybe if Georgiev gets really slammed one night and then like 2 nights later there's another game that then the backup will go in. So we'll kind of see how it all pans out. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed in it and didn't really get a good shot at it after his camp. But then again, I understand the move, and I didn't really think about it until reading more into it. Is that behind Annunen, there is not really a lot of goaltending depth in this team.
Yeah.
It's
Agreed.
basically Annunen and then what, Trent Miner,
Mhm.
right?
Up at home.
Arvid Holm. Like it's not really the greatest options out there for sure. So it makes sense.
Yeah, I was disappointed myself because, like I previously mentioned, I was writing an article about how he should get a shot. But I will, to your point, mention that a big bulk of my article was centered around how will it look for Annunen to really get a chance as a backup goaltender, especially with a guy like Alexander Georgiev in net as a starter. And when I took a look at October in particular and their schedule, there's only 2 nights where they're going to have less than 2 full days off in between games. And sprinkle into that, the season starts with a 3-game road trip. So you're not starting your um, you don't have your home opener until midway through the second week of the regular season. So, and your starter is going to play there. So to me, it was looking a lot like Georgiev probably was going to get most of, if not all of the starts in October. And I'm thinking, well, is that really even a look at a backup netminder as is? So I think we're going to see whoever it is, which obviously it's feeling like Presvetov now, very little to start the season, especially. I think the more they get worked in, you'll see it kind of compound. You'll see them get maybe every 5 games, every 4 games. And then I think we'll see about where Frankie is health wise. How often this backup tender plays will tell me a lot about how far along they think Frankie is, because I think they have part of my article was also centered around the fact that the Avalanche have a defense that has a tendency to insulate netminders in a system that can, if employed the right way, can really insulate netminders. So I was excited for Annunen because I'm thinking, well, if the Avs get back to that shutdown style defensive hockey when they were allowing like 4 and 5 shots a period at sometimes, that's the kind of hockey that builds confidence when you start stacking wins as a backup goaltender. So that's kind of what I was excited for. I will say, though, I'm glad that they did pick someone up because I think you're both correct in identifying a lack of depth at goalie in general. So this does just bring another body into the system in terms of that. And lastly, I'll say, who knows, Annunen maybe will really thrive as the netminder for the Colorado Eagles, and that can do something to help his confidence and make his future with the Avalanche a more lucrative one in the long term. That's kind of what I'm telling myself to sleep well tonight. But moving on, I wanted to also talk about the fact that the Avalanche I should say the Colorado Eagles will have Caleb Jones by means of a loan from the Carolina Hurricanes. Evan, what can you tell me about that?
It's quite funny because I didn't know that news until about 20 minutes ago.
Nice.
For those who don't understand, Caleb Jones is not an Avalanche member, although I think we all wish he was.
Yeah.
He is still with the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes just don't have an AHL affiliate. Their old one, the Chicago Wolves, are going independent, not affiliated with anybody. So to send a player down means they have to reassign them, like basically assign them to a different team, right? And that's what's happened here. Is that Caleb Jones is an Eagle, so that's kind of cool. Good for the people in Loveland who get to go check him out and go watch that youngster play. He's been good. He's a solid defender in Carolina. We've seen from time to time, and I feel like it only backlogs the defense already up there in Colorado in Loveland. You have Sam Malinsky now that's going to be up there. Caleb Jones is going to be there. There's a lot of defensive options up there now in Loveland, and while we won't see Caleb Jones in an Avalanche uniform unless something ridiculous happens in trade or whatever. Good for them, I guess, up there.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because and sometimes it's a numbers game. So, like, what I'm hearing is that it could potentially, at the very least, afford the Avalanche the ability to go take a defender from the Eagles and not really dilute what they have going on in Loveland. Ezra, what do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, one of the reasons that when it seemed like the extra defenseman in Colorado could be, or in Denver, I should say, could be, Brad Hunt or Jack Sean. Those are also two of the guys who should be leading the Eagles defense, which does matter to an extent, So yeah, that's a good point. They have an extra body there. I also think this affords the team an extra chance to look at Caleb Jones and see if that's somebody that they realistically do want to make an offer on, in the future, either when he becomes a free agent down the line or in a trade if they need an extra body. I don't think that's really what it's about. I think it is just primarily they're getting paid by Carolina to take him on, which is, that's great.
That works.
Carolina needed to find a place for him and, take advantage of things when you can. But it would have been better if they just claimed him. I don't know why they didn't do that. They clearly need a defender.
Yeah. Yeah. You were mentioning in our Slack feed that it feels like, okay, well, I guess they don't, or no, it was your article that I was so awesomely editing today in terms of having the easiest job in the world because you're a great writer. I noticed that you mentioned that, that the Avs are just kind of going with a very unfinished defensive group, it feels.
Yeah. It's very rare to see an NHL team go into the season with just 6 defenders on the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that means there's opportunity for Malinsky, maybe a Sean, maybe Brad Hunt to come up in the event of an injury, but and to get ice time while they're waiting for it rather than sit in the box. But
yeah, I guess we'll
Weird.
find out.
Yeah,
it's coming. It's right around the bend, and I can't wait. And just to get back to the Annunen conversation, we had a comment over here on YouTube from Goalie Giant said the difference between Annunen and Prosvetov is that Prosvetov can move around the crease at an NHL speed. Annunen can't. I'm sure he would argue with you on that one, but there might be a debate there to be had. He also said it's defense that insulates netminders differently. It's a lot different between Francouz and Johansson, for example. I mean, I'll give him that there's a confidence level between the two, even though Johansson fits kind of the profile of the big framed NHL netminder. I do feel more confident when Francouz is in the net in a comparable. So I'll give you that, Goalie Giant. Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate y'all for tuning in and joining in on the conversation. That said, I will just drop the website real quick. If you enjoy Colorado Avalanche hockey, head on over to milehighhockey.com. We have a ton of content, articles, some recaps, some previews, anything you might be wondering about Colorado Avalanche related. We've probably wondered ourselves and written in the late night about it. So head on over there, get some quality Avalanche content, and share it with your fellow Avalanche fans. I do want to get a look now just at the NHL as a whole, as we sit on the cusp of the new regular season, starts Tuesday. Predators Lightning. Cool game. Would be a little bit cooler if Vasilevsky was in net. It is what it is. Tell me what the two of you think. I was thinking about this all week long. It's a weird thing to think about, but Evan, I'll start with you. Is it weird to you that the NHL season doesn't start more celebratorily, I guess, like on a weekend? So you can do your cool Twitter tweet where you say it's the weekend, and then you could say it's also the start of the NHL season.
I didn't really think about that either until you just brought it up. But now that I think about it more, I actually think it's a good thing they don't on the weekend, because think about what's on the weekend. You have, especially
Football,
now
yeah.
in this time of the season, you have college football on Saturdays,
Mhm.
you have the NFL on Sunday, and those are two juggernauts that the NHL are just unfortunately not going to be able to compete with. You have the MLB.
It probably has something to do too with Ben being like in a broadcasting agreement with ESPN and ABC. They're like, no, guys, we
That's
got
true.
college
That's a good point.
football, we got college game day
Yeah,
all day Saturday. So I get that. That makes a lot of sense
good
now that you
point. And
mention
like
it.
other, like even like if you want to mention TNT or TBS, for example, they have the MLB playoffs that are going on right now.
Yep.
It's like there's so much going on. It's the best time of the season if you're just a general sports fan speaking, but
Yeah.
in terms of the NHL's sake, that's probably not the best time to start. Is on a weekend, so
Yeah.
Tuesday, fine, whatever. It kind of just is what it is, I think.
I guess I'm just old, and I'm like, man, I got work. So it's like I'm going to have to come home, work out, take a shower, get my laptop ready to live tweet the game. It's just going to be hectic. But I guess I'm not going to complain too much, because what I'm really loath is those late night games. So I guess as long as we can minimize those, I'm fine. Just start the season on a Tuesday for all I care.
And
Ezra,
lucky for you, we get 4 games starting at 8 o'clock or
I
later.
know, just to start the season, right? It's great. Awesome. Ezra, tell me this. Are you in agreement with Evan there that it is good? Can't share TV time with those big juggernauts. And then
Yeah.
second question, just to keep it rolling. Is there a team outside of the Avalanche that you're keen on this season?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Evan's right about that. You're going to get stuck fighting against football. It's not going to go well.
Okay.
That's just the nature of the beast in this country. But it does seem like the opening game of the NBA season, they make a big deal out of, and that's on a weekday
Mhm.
too. So I don't know. Maybe the NHL could do
Pull
a
it
little
off.
more to market itself, but that's not up to us.
Gotcha.
And as
The
far as other
NHL and
teams,
marketing, what?
Yeah.
right? As far as other teams go, I mean, I'm a Seattle boy, so I'd still like to see what the Kraken have up their sleeves, even though they are our nemesis now. But I'm really excited to watch the Devils. I
Nice.
think it's cool that it's Avs Devils at the peak of the NHL again. I think that's fun, and their team is so exciting. The Hughes Bros and everybody. That's going to be a fun team to watch. I love Dougie Hamilton too.
Yeah, well, I'll comment first on your mentioning of the Kraken being like our rival or of sorts now. I do think that if that's the case, the Avs have problems. We don't want to be in a rivalry with the Kraken, because and I might be completely wrong about this.
No, I agree.
I mean, put me on freezing cold takes in the morning, but I doubt that the Kraken are going to be winning or competing for a Stanley Cup anytime soon. Now, fast forward 5 or so years, maybe. But like in the near future, if that's a real rivalry, it just means that the Kraken are playing up to a team that should be in a contention window for the next 3 or 4 years. So I'm a Kraken fan too, to a point. Obviously that hurt, and like I've mentioned previously, I will not get over Tanev blowing a kiss to the crowd, and I don't think the Avalanche will anytime soon either. But you mentioned the Devils as well, and they're a team that I like to watch. They play a similar style, I guess, in terms of the modernness and the speed at which they play with. When you compare it to the Avalanche, that would be a kind of a cool Stanley Cup final. On the NHL satellite radio channel, they predicted a Carolina Avalanche Stanley Cup final. Evan, is there a team outside of the Avs that you're keen on?
I am, yeah, and I think I've mentioned it before. Is Buffalo? You obviously have the great story. Well, great quotation marks story of Eric Johnson now being a member of the Buffalo Sabres and playing his first game not too long ago, and seeing him in Sabres colors was weird.
Mhm.
But with their capability of Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, who just got extended massively, Cale Makar and Devon Chase are licking their chops with that contract.
I know.
Maybe we can go over that later, but
Yeah.
I think they have a good they're able to compete. I think they could at least compete for at least a playoff spot, whether it's top seed or wild card, who knows, right? That's the beauty of the NHL season.
Yeah.
But I think they at least have a shot to make the playoffs, and really show what they're made of, which is something that I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah, they strike me as like one of those teams that, like, if you are just kind of they're like the Detroit Lions of the NHL. Like, if your team sucks, and you're looking for a team to root for, they have kind of like that underdog vibe to them, so it's easy to root for them. I feel that when I think of the Buffalo Sabres. It's like these guys, they've been through it. They
Sure.
deserve some good years. So I'm with you on that. I like it. I like Eric Johnson too, so it's hard for me not to root for that guy. The last thing I wanted to get in, kind of over like NHL related, but we'll put it in the scope of the Colorado Avalanche, is Gary Bettman recently was quoted to say that, like, the preliminary projections of the salary cap in 24-25 are putting the number at somewhere between 87 and 88 million. I'll go to you, Ezra, first. Does that change anything for the Colorado Avalanche in terms of, the Devon Taves contract extension, and Bo Byram was probably due in a couple years as well, if not sooner? How does that change things?
Well, I think that there were higher numbers talked about among the media and fans, which maybe made it seem more palatable to resign Taves, more possible, I should say. But I don't know that anybody internally was ever expecting anything higher than this. So
Right.
I don't think it has to change anything. What really does change things in the Taves conversation is that Dahlin contract we just talked about.
Yeah.
Like, he got $11 million a year, and he's good. He's very good. He's a very good player. He's a key player for them. It makes sense that he's their highest paid player, but that is a big number that Devon Taves has to be looking at. He's not going to get 11, but you can't settle for 8 if there's somebody else just got paid 11 to be a number one somewhere, and he could be a number one somewhere.
Which then you got to decide you're going to pay him as much as Cale Makar, and then you got to tell yourself, is that really equitable?
Yeah,
but then again, you might have gotten Makar at a discount, so that's nice.
You definitely got Makar at a
Yeah.
discount. Makar is worth more than Dahlin.
Yeah.
But yeah. So re-signing Taves has just got a little bit trickier, but not really because of that number. I think it's because of the Dahlin thing.
Evan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Buffalo is definitely banking on the fact that over 8 years the cap is just going to skyrocket, which I think is a fair thing to think. It's something that Toronto has also done with the new Austin Matthews contract. Same with the Avs and McKinnon, right? That's just the nature of the game, the nature of the money game. But yeah, it's going to be hard to keep Devon Taves, and even though he's talked about on multiple occasions of wanting to stay in Colorado, and he'll take a discount to stay in Colorado, how much of a discount could you really take? Just looking at the market, right? And what else is out there? Now, is a team maybe going to have the same success and culture that the Avs have? Probably not. I think the Avs are definitely up there when it comes to being top class in that department. How much of that matters to Devon Taves, right? It's all a working game, right? This is why we're not general managers, and instead we're podcasters and writers, right? We're on the outside looking in, right? And we don't know exactly. And while we wish that Devon Taves will stay, I think it's looking less and less likely. Just looking at the market's sake.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but tell me a situation where a guy has said that he doesn't want to return to the team he plays for already. And like, if that happens, it's usually a guy who gets traded long before they ever renegotiate. So like, I don't think, as much as it's of course nice to hear and probably true in some sense, that Devon Toews wants to retire a Colorado Avalanche. I think one, that's what he says, not only to maintain his relationship with his teammates now, but to foster a relationship with his teammates potentially in the future, whoever he might play with that isn't a Colorado Avalanche, because you don't want a guy on your team who's going around saying, nah, I don't mind if I play for a different team next year. So to me, it's like him saying all the right things, and it doesn't really shed light on the situation. What I think sheds light on the situation is the numbers, because money is money. And if you're Devon Toews, this is going to be truly his last big contract. If you look at him age-wise, this should be the contract that he takes into retirement, unless he has the legs for, say, a 1 or 2 year deal at the end of his career just to cap things off. But that would be going against the norm for an NHL defender. So to me, he's got to cash in, and I don't blame him, and I want that for him, because he's earned that kind of privilege, which is to be paid premium dollar for being one of the best at your position. I will say to that point though, and Ezra, I'll ask you what you think of this. Mm-hmm. If the Avs are to potentially trade Devon Toews, we've talked about the timing of it before, but does it really make sense, or is this really one of those situations where you just let him ride off and get his contract just to keep him?
I think at this point, there's only one scenario where they trade him, and that is everything goes catastrophically wrong and they're out of the playoff race at the trade deadline. If they're not planning on extending him, or they know that it's up in the air and they've kept him on the roster at this point, they're comfortable playing out the year with him on the team, which makes sense to an extent.
Yeah,
he does give them the best chance at a cup this year. They're in a cup window. You have to take risks in that situation. I think you and I agreed over the summer that trading him over the summer was the right call.
They didn't do it.
They didn't do it, and that's okay. That's okay. I love this choice too. I think competing for the cup is what you got to do. And if they didn't see Bo Byram as a number one pairing guy quite yet, then you've got to insulate him for a little bit longer, which is great. Let's see him play a whole season and then step up into that role. But yeah, it is definitely disappointing that they have chosen not to recoup assets for him. If that is the way this goes. But also I get the logic, and I'm excited to see how this year goes.
Yeah, you're right about that, especially with Bo and Byram in the equation, because we've both agreed that the end game and the long goal is for probably Byram to play with Makar. So you let Toews have his last go with the Avs, and you have Bowen on that bridge deal. If Bo and Byram goes off this season, I'm gonna be picketing outside of Ball Arena to make sure they sign him in that one contract year and don't wait another year. Because if he goes off for 2 years, we might be looking at paying him like a number one defender when we just avoid it. We just had to go through the situation of watching one walk.
Yeah, so, I don't think he's eligible for an extension within the first year of his signing. So
no,
I think that's how it works. So they'd have to wait. But
I guess I mean like the second year after the first, that second year of his contract, before the season's over, or even before, if possible, that season starts, that would be ideal for me, if that's a thing.
Yeah, lock him in when you can, because
exactly.
I love the idea of a long-term contract for him this summer. It would have been like, obviously Makar is different, but Makar's on a steal of a deal. If Byram was on a steal of a deal too, man, this team is set up for success. But obviously that didn't happen, and that's okay too. It's just hopefully he becomes everything we want him to be and gets paid a little bit less than what he deserves.
Yeah, exactly. As is the case with every one of our favorite players. We hope they make a little less than they deserve.
Yeah,
they stay on our favorite teams.
Good thing we're hockey fans, because that's really true.
hey, yeah, exactly. We get paid a little less than everybody involved, so calm down. But in terms of the Avs being prepared, I think it's pretty awesome that it feels like they're kind of healthy to a point going into this regular season for the first time, at least the cleanest bill of health that they've had in a while. Evan, they got Kings on Wednesday night. Finally, we finally get regular season hockey. What's exciting you the most heading into this new regular season?
I mean, that's such a hard question when it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
just the fact that hockey is back, right?
Yeah.
The Avs get to play a meaningful game for the first time since April, and looking for I would hope anyway, a kind of a revenge tour after how last season ended. You look at how last season went with injuries and then getting knocked out in 7 games to the new guys on the block, right?
Mhm.
That's just something that you don't really want to be on your resume, especially in a cup defense year.
Yeah.
And so you would hope that they come out guns a-blazing to start the season, put themselves back on the map, because honestly, they're kind of being overlooked a little bit, I think, in terms of like, oh, well, Gabriel Landeskog's out injured for the entire year. They're screwed. They don't have a captain. You look at, they don't have a backup goaltender now. Francouz is injured for who knows how long, right? They're kind of being overlooked, and I think that's honestly a good thing.
Mhm.
It kind of just allows them to focus on themselves, allows them to just do their own thing, and not be, completely, you know, English is hard, completely loaded with expectations.
Hey,
Like
that
their
should be your Twitter headline. English is hard.
English is hard.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that. But no,
Yeah.
I just
Love
think
you.
it's going to be good that hockey will be back and that
Yeah.
the Avs will make a statement, hopefully.
Yeah, I like that. And just to poke at that other team that plays in crypto.com arena, at least the Avs didn't get swept by the Kraken like the Lakers got swept by the Nuggets. So anyway, it will be cool to start things back at crypto.com arena against the LA Kings, although it feels like, and knock on wood, everybody all at once, that every time the Avs play the Kings, something terrible happens in terms of injuries. But Ezra, going into this opening matchup against the Kings, are you keying on any specific matchups?
I'm gonna be there, guys. I'm gonna be at this game. I'm
Yes.
so excited.
That's
It's gonna be
awesome.
hard to key on any matchups from up in the nosebleeds, but I'm really excited to see. They've got Pierre-Luc Dubois slotting in as their
Yeah.
new number 2, and he's getting $8.5 million a year. We got Ryan Johansson at 4. Let's see what that matchup looks like, because I don't think those two
Ooh.
players are that different. So I'm excited to see that. Obviously, watching the top lines go at it is going to be fun. Ours, I think, is better, but we'll see how Druin fits in. And I'm also really excited for Ross Colton to be here and see what he brings as a third line center. They've got Phil Deneau in the third line. Obviously, the lines aren't going to match up 1-to-1, 2-to-2, 3-to-3,
Yeah.
but like just seeing how these players compare to each other, because I do think that this is a realistic playoff opponent,
Yes.
and the way things match up down the middle in the playoffs is crucial. So I'm excited to key in on that and see what's up.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. And I've been working on the preview. And one of the first things that I really am like, oh, man, is that Pierre-Luc Dubois at second line center. It feels like the Kings have done a really good job year in and year out of getting better from one season to the next, pretty much since the former Avalanche became the manager around there. So
Are you a PLD believer?
I'm a believer. We'll see how it goes. I think this season will say a lot. If they do in fact become an Avalanche playoff matchup or a team that maybe gets around in the playoffs, I think you see another kind of wave of buyback into that experiment. But Evan, I mentioned that the Kings seem to get better and better. We're talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois. Is there anybody else that you're kind of keying on that the Avalanche should maybe be worried about?
I don't know if it's something necessarily the Avs need to be worried about, but I think it's something that they need to exploit, and that's the goaltending. And I think that's
Okay.
kind of been the biggest question of the Kings the last few seasons. Phoenix Copley kind of came out of nowhere last season and performed well. And then it was Merzlikins, right? That played last season with the Kings. Am I mistaken by
No,
that?
the other one.
The other one.
I almost said Kiprusov, which is absolutely wrong. Wow, he got $5 million a year to play in Ottawa.
Oh God.
I'll find
my
it.
goodness.
Hold on.
Regardless, whoever this unknown man is, he did lead LA into the playoffs.
Jonas Corposalo.
Corpusalo, that's it.
Corpusalo. And you're
Another
right. He was
K.
the other
Um,
Columbus Blue Jacket in that little
That's right.
tandem they had for a second there.
But now Corpusalo's gone, right? And Jonathan Quick, their longtime goaltender's gone, right? He's no longer with the team. So now you have Phoenix Copley, and then whoever their new guy is that they brought in.
Cam Talbot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Goalie Giant.
Goalie
No,
Giant.
Goalie Giant. We should.
Well, Goalie Giant, I also want to acknowledge what you said earlier. You're absolutely right about the you know goalies. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, with this one here, it's not so much confidence thing, but more of a fit thing. As defense feels to need an agile, reactive goalie a la Georgiev, not the slow positional type a la JoJo. You might be the goalie giant. My goodness, we found you. We finally found you.
But
thank you, goalie giant. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. So, I just think that goaltending is the question mark, and that's something that the Avs will hopefully, exploit, get a lot of shots on them, and show that they can break despite a really good forward depth that they have.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this in terms of that goaltending and exploiting it. I think I'm keying on the power play, and I'm keying on my man Jonathan Drouin. I know he's probably not going to be on that power play one as things look right now in those skates, but I still think that he has the unique sense to find the guy with the most dangerous angle. And that can be incredibly dangerous on a power play. So I still think my prediction that he's going to score the first goal is going to sink. But if not, I'm with Ezra. I think he has an assist heavy season, and that he might at least be the primary assist on the season's opening goal for the Avalanche. But that said, Ezra, if there's one Avalanche player or maybe two that you see coming out completely on fire just to start things, some guys it takes a while, but others it's just good to go. Who is that to you this season potentially?
Do you mean like who's going to come out firing on all cylinders in this game, or who's going to be?
I guess I guess over the span of maybe the first 2 weeks, who do you see kind of coming out flying out of the gates?
Oh yeah, okay. I think we're going to see a lot of points from Mikko Rantanen early on this season. I think he's gonna be motivated to keep going with what he did last year. And we all know that Kale and Nate both start a little slow. So yeah, I'll go with Mikko. I'm gonna answer my other version of your question too.
Okay.
I think on Wednesday we're gonna see crazy games from Miles Wood and Logan O'Connor. They're gonna go so hard. It's gonna be wild.
Yeah, I have a feeling that I'm gonna love Miles Wood. Because
if you love Logan O'Connor, you're gonna love Miles Wood.
Exactly, yeah. And I do love me some Logan O'Connor. So I'm with you there. Let's do both versions of this question because I like that. I like that a lot. Evan, who do you see having a great game one, as Ezra kind of coming out of the gates flying against the Kings, and then more so over the stretch of time, who do you see point wise producing maybe right from the start?
Yeah, I think Cale Makar is going to be the one that's going to be flying to kind of start the season. He's my prediction to get the first goal of the year on the power play. Nice. I look forward to seeing what he can do, trying to will this team forward pretty much. And in terms of over a longer stretch of time, a lot of people are forgetting that this guy exists. Valeri Nichushkin. You forget how he started last season before he got injured.
Yes.
He did really, really good before he got injured. I was actually going back and looking back at some of these old clips of the podcast. He had, and I remember this vividly, 16 points in 15 games.
Yeah.
And if he can produce that
power play goal,
if he can produce that and rebound from whatever the heck happened in Seattle, and come out with that response, that would be great. I would love to see that.
That's a really good pick because he should be extra motivated to be like, hey, I got you, boys. I'm not leaving you again,
Yeah. It's like, you can go into the room and say, my bad, guys. And I'm sure that there's an understanding on a deeper level that fans and people like us just don't have access to. So it could be less of that I'm sure his teammates don't care as much as maybe we think they do, based on that maybe context that they have that we don't. But I will say personally, I bet you're right that he's like, let me show at least the people who don't have that context that I'm here for the right reasons and I'm here to be a good teammate. And the best way to do that is to play really, really well inside the structure of the Colorado Avalanche. So I like that pick as well, Evan. Big shout out to Brian Sundown. Says, thanks, guys, for the Avs tickets. You're very welcome, Brian. We give Avs tickets out every once in a while. To be involved in those Avs ticket giveaways, please head on over to Twitter or X, Twitter, and follow us at Mile High Hockey. You can see our little ticker down at the bottom of the screen. And we announce our ticket giveaways there. We haven't done one in a couple weeks, so just wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We may or may not be doing one next week, heading into the first episode of the real season. So head on over there and subscribe, or follow. That way you know exactly when we are giving away Avalanche tickets. Yes, so that's pretty fun that we get a guy coming back to us after getting Avs tickets. That's how you keep them around. Just give them stuff, right? That's what we do.
The
But
NHL might not be good at marketing, but maybe we are.
we
At least a
are. We
little
might
bit.
have figured this out. Free tickets works every time.
Why doesn't the NHL just do free tickets?
Yeah, exactly. Well, my last thing I want to touch on in preview, I guess maybe two things in preview to the Kings, is Bo Byram. We saw him take kind of a headhunter shot against the Vegas Golden Knights. Shocker. It seems like he's doing all right in practice, but is there cause for concern? And what have you heard, Evan?
No, I don't think there's any cause for concern. If he's been fine and skating with the team, I don't see why it's an issue. But yeah, that hit at the end of the Vegas game was definitely a little questionable. I know people were saying, oh, he was leaning into the hit and like turn his shoulder the right way. It's like, it doesn't matter regardless. Like you're still putting a guy face first into the glass. Numbers aren't fully, directly lined up parallel with the glass, but they are at least turning there. So I don't know. That's definitely a questionable hit. It's preseason. It kind of just is what it is now at this point. And as long as Byram is okay, and he doesn't have any more lingering issues from this, the better, I think. And if he's been skating fine with the group, then I don't see why it's an issue.
Yeah, I find it funny as the team who was crying for Mark Stone previously getting knocked by a guy who's not going to play in the NHL proceeds to line up a young potential defensive superstar in a game that doesn't matter late. So I digress. Ezra, it looks like Olofsson snagged that fourth line center role officially. As we look at the lineup, are you satisfied with that, or how do you feel?
I am. He outplayed Ben Myers at the things that Bednar was looking for that job. Ben Myers gets to go down to the AHL and try to provide a little offense there, which I think is more his game than Olofsson's, and Olofsson's is more defensive responsibility and winning draws, and that's what they needed down there. So I'm satisfied with it. I'm high on that line, honestly. I think my prediction in a post that's going to come out soon, where we predict who scores the first goal of the game on Wednesday, is Logan O'Connor, and I think that it's probably assisted by Olofsson. I like him. I think he's a good fit. I think he's going to grind well and play a good game with Cogs and Logue.
Yeah, I like it too. I think it just speaks volumes that it felt like they had a few options to go with there.
Totally.
And if you're Olofsson and you're the one that they went with, I think that should be a confidence builder. Evan, what are your thoughts on him settling into that fourth line center role? And are the Avs good up the middle right now, or is it still yet to be seen?
The Avs are good up the middle. I'm definitely happy with the options that they have, like Ezra said. I think I'm honestly just kind of more shocked that they did it, that they actually sent Ben Myers down.
Right.
I was not expecting that, honestly. I had kind of expected that Myers would have a foot in the door just because he played with the team last year a lot. He knows the system. He knows what's going on. Even if he's not, the best player for that role, Bednar likes his guys that know the system and know what they're doing. And the fact that Myers got sent down, I'm kind of shocked by. And so I'm happy about that for sure. That Olofsson got the gig. I'm glad that Riley Tufte did make it through waivers.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was good that he made it through, because he had an impressive preseason as well. Just didn't quite fit in that center role that Bednar was looking for. He's a better winger. Who knows? Maybe if Cogliano is not able to go on Wednesday because there's still some question marks surrounding his availability, Tufte will come up and end up playing on that fourth line wing, or they'll just go with our good old favorite Curtis McDermott, who's still around, unfortunately. Can we just leave him in LA with his old team? Like, is that possible? But no, I
happens, can I revise my goal position?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
I am happy with Olofsson.
Because if he's on the wing, it's not happening.
Oh Lord. Well, I guess that kind of leaves me with I guess an extended bold predictions now that I really think about it, because I want to get your guys' predictions on the more predominant NHL awards and see if any Avalanche players fall into that, and also talk about the ones that aren't Avalanche players that you might suggest, and then we'll end things with our bold predictions. So I'm gonna rattle them off real quick. I want your Rocket Richard winner, your Norris winner, your Hart, and your Stanley Cup winner with a Conn Smythe walkawayer. So, Evan, we'll start with you. Who's winning the Rocket Richard this season?
I just feel like it'd be dumb to pick anybody other than Connor McDavid.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. Let's see what Ezra says. Who's your vote here? What do you got?
Well, I mean, Evan already took McDavid, so I'll go really bold and say Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping you would say Austin Matthews, because Austin Matthews is one of the guys I think that has a chance just based on his role on the power play and how many times he scores on the power play.
Totally.
Who knows? Ovechkin could just go off. No. You think he's getting 40? You think he's getting 40 this season?
Maybe. I mean, last season.
How far away is he? I wonder. I forget.
I think he needs 3 more seasons of 30 goals to. I think it's something like 90-ish goals away. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he looked washed last year. We all know it. Nobody wants to say it.
Yeah, he did look a little tired.
But he still put up 40, which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. A tired Ovechkin will put up 40 goals, no doubt.
He contributed nothing anywhere else on the ice, but he still scores goals, which is
he still got that spot. Yeah.
But you're saying Matthews, is that right?
Yeah, my vote is Matthews on the Richard. I think that's also not like some guy calling a shot and taking a big swing. So, but I think we're all pretty close to what it will probably settle as if not there aren't any injuries. Excuse me, English is hard, huh, Evan? Moving on to the defender, who do you think will win the Norris, Evan?
Just the fact that he was nominated last year with how little he played, I think is crazy. And if he is healthy and keeps on playing this year, I don't see why Cale Makar can't win it again.
Yep. He might be like one of those perennial, he's probably going to win it like once or twice in a row or once every other year a lot in his career. Ezra, are you in the same party? Is that your vote?
Absolutely. I think so for sure. But I will say, since Evan already took him, I'll choose somebody else.
Okay.
Dahlin's got that contract to live up to. Let's see if he can do it.
Ooh, that would be pretty cool to see someone live up to a contract like that, because that's pretty much 11 mil. I mean, that's Norris caliber money.
If you're buying a Norris trophy with that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold pick. I like that pick, though.
Well, I'll go the opposite, and I'll tell you that Carlson will not be a candidate this year.
I agree.
That's my prediction there. All right, Evan, Hart. Who's winning the Hart Trophy?
I'm sorry. Wait, no one picked Jack Johnson for the Norris? Are we serious? I'm just kidding.
Well, Curtis McDermott isn't a defender anymore, so I couldn't pick him.
Hart Trophy. I think simply because of his Rocket Richard performance, it will be McDavid again. And I'm sorry, I think I'm picking the easy answers here, so I'm sorry.
You get to
Good
go
for
first.
you.
That's all you got, that's okay. I think it is McDavid. I wanted to be contrarian in every pick and have something different than Evan, but it's McDavid's trophy to lose. If he plays, he wins.
Yeah, I wish I had a drop for like a homer alert. I would press it right now, but to me this year it's Nathan MacKinnon. And I think that it's just because it needs to be Nathan MacKinnon. You want to talk about one of the guys who has deserved a heart but just hasn't won one. That's the first guy I think of, even though I'm a Colorado Avalanche fan. I think fans elsewhere kind of feel similarly. Like this has to be the year a guy like Nathan MacKinnon, or he has to get one. I know what's actually kind of crazy is like even a guy like Sidney Crosby. I think he's only won it 3 or 4 times in his career. So the Hart is kind of a hard trophy to win and win consecutively. So we'll see. I wonder if there's like some voter fatigue in terms of McDavid this year. We saw that kind of happen with Nikola Jokic in the NBA, where it looked like Jokic was about to win his 3rd MVP, and kind of the temperature in the room changed, and it felt like voters voted for him just to make that not a reality, even though he probably was the MVP. And I wonder if any of that will start to work its way into the Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid numbers, because if they're not doing the ultimate and achieving the ultimate goal, I think voters start to see those regular season numbers differently. What are your guys' thoughts on that, Ezra? I'll go back to you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think we saw voter fatigue for McDavid give Matthews the Hart in 2022.
Okay.
I think it's definitely a real thing that happens. But the way he played last year, he just stapled himself to the top of the list every year going forward.
Mm-hmm.
He was so dominant. He was so clearly like, look, guys, you fucked up last year.
Yeah.
You cannot give me the Hart. And if he's that much better than everybody else, which frankly, I mean, all love to MacKinnon, but the only player who comes close to being as good on the ice as Connor McDavid is Cale Makar.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play offense. So, I mean, he does play offense, but he doesn't play forward, so he's not going to be up for a Hart. I can't see a world where Connor McDavid isn't the front runner unless he isn't playing.
Got you. I think that's fair. I don't know. I'm not like I said, homer alert. I'm not like feeling like Nathan MacKinnon is, for a long time it was like the 1 and 2 best players in the world. I think the gap between McDavid and even Draisaitl and MacKinnon is larger than we really thought at first. Now, obviously it's a team game, and McDavid is yet to take home that sort of hardware, which I think is why he doesn't get kind of that kudos that he probably should in terms of that. But like I said, it's a team game, and I think where the Avalanche and anyone on their team can kind of benefit more than maybe Edmonton, maybe not McDavid since he has Draisaitl, but is that I think MacKinnon has a really good line around him too. Mikko Rantanen and Drouin, I think, will prove to set Drouin in particular. I think will prove to set MacKinnon up for more goals than we're used to seeing from MacKinnon, and I think that will just absolutely garner a confidence in MacKinnon that once he gets rolling, it's kind of impossible to stop him. It's you're not going to stop him. You're only going to contain him. You're going to have to decide what you're going to take away, but you're going to give up something,
Yeah, I'd buy all that. And I think like for me, the MacKinnon is probably the 3rd best player in the world, if not 4th. Maybe you put somebody else ahead of him, like Matthews. I don't know. I wouldn't. I'd rather have his all-around game, but it's McDavid, Makar, MacKinnon to me. That's like those are the 3 best hockey players on earth, in my opinion. Yeah. And the only reason that McDavid is a shoo-in for the Hart is that he is a lot better as a forward than MacKinnon, even though they're 1 and 3 in the world in my eyes. Like he is just somehow so much more athletic, so much more like MacKinnon is driven. MacKinnon is an amazing skater, powerful skater. But Connor McDavid can make plays out of nowhere that should never be done. It's wild.
Yeah.
Makar is the same way. but I really do believe that McKinnon is the next best forward. It's just that the gap there is big. You said earlier there's a gap between him and Draisaitl. I disagree with that. Draisaitl is very good, but he's a product of McDavid. The reason people think he's top 5 in the world is McDavid.
Well, no, that's what I was kind of saying. There's even a gap between Draisaitl and McDavid that
I follow.
that people don't really mention.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm arguing with someone who agrees with me. Hell yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I think we're right on the same page in terms of 2 and 3, and that there's a gap between 1, 2, and 3, for sure. But Evan, we'll move on to the final prediction, and we'll kind of branch off that. Do you see the Oilers winning a Stanley Cup? And if not, who is your Stanley Cup champion, and who wins the Conn Smythe?
No Stanley Cup for the Oilers.
Okay.
Sorry, Oilers fans. You guys are probably going to find us and roast us. So that'll be fun to deal with.
Bookmark.
As much as I want to speak from the heart, I'm going to go with my head here. I do think that it will be someone out east that gets it this time. It won't be Vegas again, but I think this is Carolina's time to shine. If they have a healthy Sebastian Aho, Svechnikov, he's the one that tore his ACL last year. If he's healthy, even for last year's playoffs, I think they get past Florida. But I think this year, if he's healthy, and the rest of the team is healthy, I think it's Carolina's. And in terms of the Conn Smythe for that, sure, we'll give it to Svechnikov. I feel like that'd be a good little comeback story for him.
Yeah, this is a term that's thrown around way too much, so I'll just add to it. But I think that's the sexy pick this year is Carolina to finally, because they really are. When I think of a team that's just been knocking on the door, I think of them, and I think of kind of the Dallas Stars. Ezra, what's your pick for the Stanley Cup and Conn Smythe?
Well, I want to address Carolina real quick.
Okay.
I think that they are this generation's the 2010s, 2020s version of the 2000s, 2010s San Jose Sharks. I think they are almost there always, and they're never going to get it.
Gotcha.
They just don't quite have it, the top end in the offense. They don't quite have the top end in goaltending. I don't think they have it. So that being said, I also want to go with my heart. I want to pick Colorado, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with my head.
Okay.
And say the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Go together very quickly, and they get the goaltending that they need from Akira Schmidt, and this is their year.
I love it. I like the fact that you guys are brave enough and, humble enough to not pick your favorite team. Me, on the other hand, I
was really thinking it for you.
I refuse to go back in time and look at this video in the event that my favorite team, the Colorado Avalanche, win the Stanley Cup and have to expose myself for picking another team. I will say, though, I am really bullish on the Avalanche, I think, for legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
I think the core is there, intact. I think they have the best netminder they've had in years. I think that they have the best defensive pair and their top pair that has existed in years. So I don't have a problem with betting on burgundy and blue. So that's where I'm at. I think that the Avalanche, if you don't consider them a contender, you're crazy. And I think that they get back to the Stanley Cup final at minimum. If they do win the Stanley Cup, my Conn Smythe pick is Alexander Georgiev. Ooh. I think that if the Avalanche make it into the playoffs and it is centered around a defensive structure that we've seen them have, that this could be a Vezina caliber and Conn Smythe style season for an Avalanche goalie for the first time in a very, very long time. I'm big on this for a few reasons. One, I think we just started to see Georgiev get comfortable as an Avalanche last season, and it still came out as his best year as a pro. I think he just expands upon that, and getting better on top of already being good bodes really, really well for this Colorado Avalanche team, especially in the postseason when goals get hard to come by. I think he'll end up being the stalwart for this Colorado Avalanche team. And then I was going to give another option, but you know what? I refuse. It will be the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah.
We'll get to raise another banner. I know there's a spot waiting for it, and I look forward to it. So that's my pick. Sorry, guys. You were the nice guys.
That's great. I think for me, like, they are clearly the best team in the West. The ESPN projections or like power rankings, whatever, for whatever that's worth, have Vegas ahead of them at 1 and Colorado at 2. Vegas is good. They were good. They're done. Colorado is back. It's over for everyone.
We're back, baby.
And
I think that
I didn't make my Conn Smythe pick. I realized.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to say it's Dougie Hamilton.
Ooh, Dougie. That would be cool. That'd be like the heartwarmer.
I didn't want to pick Colorado, but hearing you talk about it, I'm like, why was I being so silly? Like,
yeah, like I said, I don't think I said I hit the homer button for Nathan McKinnon. I think that's fair. But I don't think I'm hitting the homer button in thinking that this Avalanche team, the way it's constructed, can win a Stanley Cup.
I don't either. I think it comes down I think Russ Colton were like, I'm so sure he's going to be a great 3C. It comes down to Ryan Johansson. So we'll see.
Okay, well, that just leaves us with one segment left. We're going to run a little bit long, so I thank the two of you for hanging in there with me. You can blame the Colorado Avalanche for claiming a goalie off waivers for that, because we had to add to the script. But let's go back. Let's go back.
Give us news on a podcast day.
Jeez, content. God, give us something to talk about. How rude. But yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to last week's bold predictions. And do you guys remember yours? Because I'm having a hard time finding them on the internet. But I know that I get to correct buzzer myself on one of them, which is that I predicted that Ben Myers would be sent down before we kind of thought he would. I don't know if the second part stands true, because it was like the last day of cuts basically, but I do think most people had him making the roster and playing on opening night. So I think that I'll give myself the ding on that one.
I remember mine.
Yeah, what's that?
Mine's an X, because I said they were going to win out preseason and I lost both games.
Oh, that's right.
That was real good. Thank you.
Yeah, I had to. That's right, because I made you guys pick one that would resolve during the week, and I don't know what yours was, Ezra. So what do we do in this situation?
This was either last week or 2 weeks ago. Jeremy Hansel getting an AHL contract.
Yes, that was last week, because the week before it was you thought that what was the guy
would make it.
Yeah.
So I was wrong about both of those things.
Yeah. So here we go. Yes. Okay. So that settles the previous both predictions. We went,
and that's why I ended up picking the Devils, because those are times I went with my heart.
See what happens? You learn your lesson and you get the buzzer. Exactly. Yeah. Go with your brain, never your heart, if you want to avoid the buzzer. That said, Evan, give me your bold prediction. Let's hope and pick one that will resolve before next week's episode on Monday.
Yeah, I got mine. It'll resolve before next week for sure.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Avs are definitely not the best coming out of the gate. So they are going to drop at least one of these games, these opening 2 games, whether it's LA or San Jose. We'll see. I would rather it be LA than San Jose, but if they drop the San Jose one, I would not be surprised either.
Yeah, that's like got a trap game. It's got a trap game feeling to it, with you know, the opener against LA and Crypto, sold out crowd, probably some stars in the joint. Then you travel some miles over to San Jose, and you're playing the Sharks, and it's kind of a totally different atmosphere against a team you probably won't play in the playoffs. So like you said, it has potential to set up for a trap game. But my big thing for the Avs is that they beat the teams they're supposed to freaking beat. So San Jose is definitely on that list. I like that bold prediction, though, Evan. I think it's realistic for sure. Ezra, what about you?
I'm going to go with my very bold heart here and say that Ivan Prosvetov gets a shutout against San Jose.
Oh,
that is bold. That is very, very, very bold.
Whoa.
That counts if he doesn't play a minute.
He's
not giving up any goals. I should have rephrased it. He gives up 0 goals against San Jose.
I was going to say, do you think he gets a start that early?
I kind of do. I bet they want to see what he has, but that might be too early. It's either San Jose or Chicago is his first start, I think.
I don't think it would be the home opener. I like your idea of it being San Jose.
San Jose, yeah.
Oh yeah, Chicago's the home opener. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thing I touched on in that Anonin article was Gorgiev's going to play because that home opener doesn't come until the 18th, and there's only those 3 games on the road, and the way those are laid out, there's days in between, and there's very little travel. So yeah, but we'll go to my bold prediction, and I don't know if it's all that bold, but I'll say that a member of the Colorado Avalanche has a hat trick this week.
Okay, that's pretty bold. You got 2 games to get a hat trick. That's
yeah. Whatever. I thought it was 3, so now I'm looking at myself like you're an idiot. But hey, that's what these bold predictions are all about, baby. Is talking out the side of your face and praying to God it's true. Because
I mean, you've got a game against San Jose. That's a definite chance for.
That's what I'm thinking. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you mentioned too that the Kings are a little shaky in net.
That's true.
The Sharks have been shaky in net. Speaking of, we talked about Barton Jones on waivers. He did in fact hit the waiver wire, so it could have been that. I did see though that there was like a disclaimer to his agreement that he would have to get like $100,000 signing bonus upon signing a waiver, which was like, oh well, have a nice day, Martin.
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm shocked that contract is legal because it's basically just like we're not letting him go through waivers or get claimed on waivers. I guess it's bizarre, but yeah.
Well, that's our bold prediction segment for the week heading into the very first Colorado Avalanche game of the 2023-2024 season. That's a mouthful, boys. But thank you to the 2 of you, Ezra and Evan, for joining me. Folks, if you enjoyed this podcast and you enjoyed the English, as Evan puts it, that comes out of these 2's faces, head on over to milehighhockey.com and you'll like the English that they put down on paper as well in writing form. And you can follow all things Colorado Avalanche there, as well as go follow them on X. You can see Evan's X tag right there underneath his name. Yeah. No, other hand. Point the other way. That's the biggest blooper I've ever seen. You tried so hard to point at that name and you couldn't figure it out. Ezra's got his handle and his Insta handle down there. So there you go. Wait, what? It's hard. See, this is what happens to me when I'm doing the wheel, guys, and you don't quite understand. But that does it for us over here on Mile High Hockey Lab. Thank you for joining us on our 35th edition. Please head on over to Spotify to check us out on our new feed. And always follow, set your alerts, and look out for our next episode coming Monday. Evan, Ezra, thank you, fellas. Adios.
Welcome to
Mile High Hockey Lab.
Mile High Hockey Lab.
It's cold, but I'm